Hey, it's your boy Coach Vic, certified land investor. Glad to be back. It's been a while since I made a video, so I thought I'd make a quick video to kind of go over some of the highlights of the online event that I did. Let's see, what's today? Today is the 22nd, so I think I did it it was last week. Now, why am I going to tell you about an event, a live event, online event that happened last week when you probably missed it? Well, number one, you shouldn't have missed it. I put a bunch of emails out. I was broadcasting everywhere. You should have been there. It was fantastic. It's supposed to be an hour a day, and I just went over and over like time, just answering questions and giving more and more value. But that's neither here nor there. What I really want to talk about is a couple things. First, I will talk about a bit about what I've noticed about the people who are, whether they're new to land investing or they've been doing it, but they're not doing it to the level that they've liked. And then I'll talk a little bit something that happened today that I made a quick video about on TikTok, and I think I'll elaborate a little bit here. And it all relates together, don't worry. All right, so first thing I want to talk about is this. Most people who I've noticed when they learn land investing from somebody else, especially some of the big names in the space, unless they paid a large amount of money or perhaps they have some other support system, because you pay a large amount of money to get the actual coaching, unless they have some other support system, you guys don't really learn the basics on either side of the coin, meaning the acquisition side or the disposition side. So what do I mean by that? Yes, you will learn how to send out offers and things like that, but there's not a lot of talk about why things are done the way that they're done. So then when a financial issue may come up, a lot of people are a little more hesitant. They'll have a lot more resistance because they're not showing why they're doing the thing. So they try to find shortcuts and things like that. And sure, there are ways that you can substitute certain things here or there, but in reality, there's a very specific reason why you should be doing certain steps along the way. And if you don't know why you're doing that, then it's very easy to skip it or minimize its importance. And then when you do that, obviously, it's like going through a recipe for something you're baking or you're cooking. You skip a couple of steps. I mean, you don't really know what you're going to get on the other side. It's going to be something of lesser quality. All right. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. I noticed that. And what can you do about that, right? Like you're trying to go to these big names. You know, you advertise more, all these things. You're like, well, what you know, they know what they're doing. They're making all this money in land. Like, how do I know if I'm going to get all the information that I need? Well, it's a good question. Now, the only thing I can tell you is actually try to talk to the people who are in the program. Now, I will say this. Just about any program you get into, whether it's land investing or something else, you know, learning how to do drop shipping, e-commerce, crypto trading, Forex, affiliate marketing, all the things, right? The basic information will be there, and I'm sure there are a lot of people, maybe not a large majority, but there's a good number of people who can take that basic information and run with it. And, you know, and perhaps those are the people who you see in those success stories. But in my experience, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's a lot of people out there who need a little bit more support than that. They have questions. They're trying to do a technique, but for whatever reason, it's not coming out properly. Right? It's kind of like, hey, I'm trying to learn how to shoot a basketball, but for whatever reason, I keep missing my shots and it doesn't feel natural. Now, is it the lack of natural feeling because it's just a new movement, or am I doing it wrong? See, when you're in these land investing courses or any course and you don't have somebody to give you that feedback, you don't know. This is why it's important to find somebody in the program and let them give you their experience. Now, don't talk to somebody who was in the program for the last 2 weeks, right? They're still new. They're still excited. You know, there's still the honeymoon period. Talk to somebody who's actually 4 months in. See how they feel about it. You're more likely to get a more measured response. You'll get the highs and you'll get the lows. You'll get the good and you'll get the bad. And that's going to help you determine if that particular program is right for you. Not saying the program is bad. It just may not be a fit with how you like to learn or how the information is presented or anything like that. All right. So understanding how a program works is good. Understanding how it works with you is even better. Again, that's why I said if you're not paying a lot of money to get that individual help, a lot of people are struggling. What else did I notice about the event? Well, it seems that a lot of people seem to overlook the importance of the upfront work of the area research. Now, yes, I show how easy it can be to kind of pick an area or a couple of areas that may support your budget. And in the live event, I actually went over that in depth. It was something that we should have spent 5-10 minutes on. I spent a whole day on it. But it was really good for everybody who was involved, because it gave them a chance to not only verify that their area was good, but run it by me so I can give them like my 2 thumbs up or my stamp of approval. But with that said, most people who came to the event and other people I talked to from my Facebook group, or they're hitting me up in DMs on Instagram or TikTok or on Facebook itself, they're overlooking the importance of a good area. So now they're buying land, or they're at least attempting to buy land in places where the land isn't that desirable. Now, you heard me say it a million times, all land sells. So don't think that it has to be a desirable property for you to buy it and sell it. But you got to admit, things are much easier when the land is easy to see its use case. If you buy a desert square, meaning a plot of land in the middle of the desert, yes, somebody out there will probably buy it if you price it properly. But it's only going to be a certain somebody, a special type of somebody that will want a property like that. However, if you get a nice, flat, open area, not too far from a major metro area, a lot more people can see the utility in that. So you're not just talking to people who want to get away from folks, but you're also talking to other developers. You're talking to people who want to build their own house. You're talking to people who are looking for recreational properties and they need a way to, a getaway and all that. Much easier to sell that than it is to sell, again, a desert square, for example. When you don't do the area research properly, then you start buying properties that are no good for you. Now, I always say you're not the end buyer, so don't, just because you wouldn't buy it doesn't mean it's bad, but you still need a good market that's going to, a big pool of people that you can potentially market to. So please understand this, whether you went to the event or not, do not skip on the area research. In fact, I will say this, the majority of work should be in that finding a good area to invest in. And if you do it right, everything else becomes easier, right? Sure, sending out the offers and all that, that's not going to be easier. That's the same no matter if it's a good area or bad. But once you actually have the actual land in your possession, selling it, super easy. Hell, even if you're still negotiating on a price to purchase it, it's not so bad. Why? Well, you get away with paying a little bit more than what you should have, because you can still make that up with a good sale on the other end. And the sale won't take you 6-8 months. You probably sell it in a couple of weeks, if not a month or two. So that area research is so important. I don't know why a lot of people seem to just say, hey, just invest what we tell you to invest. Go where all the action is and all that. Like, yeah, okay, but right now, if everybody's making dumb decisions like we're a bunch of lemmings just running off a cliff, why should I run off the cliff too? This is why I don't invest in those heavily populated, or I'm not going to say populated, those very popular newbie land investing areas. What areas are those? Well, Nevada for one, Colorado, New Mexico. Those are the 3 main ones. Now, the other ones that are good, Texas and Florida, those are good areas that are somewhat newbie popular, or heavy with newbies, but not as heavy. And there's those like Texas especially, it's so big that there's enough for everybody out there, where you can find expensive properties, cheap properties, and all the rest. And since there's so many people who live in Texas, you have a big buyer's pool of people, and the terrain and everything is so varied that you're going to find something for somebody out there. So the point is, if you do that area research properly, and you just sit down and do the work and find an area that's going to be a slam dunk, so to speak, not the property, just the area, it's going to make everything so much easier on the other end, right? It's easier to sell a nice property than a crappy property. Let's see, what else? Oh, third, a lot of people have a big aversion to making a list and actually mailing that list. Because I get it, making a list and mailing out to it can be expensive. And again, if you didn't do your research properly to pick that area right, and you're not getting any deals, or maybe you did that good research, but then you didn't do the research deep enough where you're actually learning what the price point should be, that's going to entice the person who owns the property to sell it to you, but at the same time leave enough meat on the bone so when you acquire it, you can sell it, you're going to make a profit. Well, then it's going to be very tough. And it's going to be hard to get through that fear, because maybe a lot of people actually did a mailer at some point, and because they did that mailer and nothing came back, they're afraid to do the next mailer. They're like, well, I spent so much money on it, I don't know if I can do it again. All the money I hoped to buy a land with, or a piece of land with, it went into mailers and nothing came back. I get it. Again, that's why the area research is so important, because it's not only going to pick a good area for you, but it's also going to show you what these properties go for. And if you can't get a property for a certain price, then you let you know the area, while it may have been great if you were able to acquire something, it ain't for you. So you got to move on. But then you know how to pick another area because you got that. Now, for the most part, if you're new to this and you're picking an area, your first area may be a dud, and that's okay. It's part of the learning curve. But usually after that first area that you kind of like try and you don't get really anything out of it, you'll get some responses, you'll have some conversations, you'll go through the negotiations, but you don't get nothing. The second area you pick, you feel a little bit more confident, you understand the game, and things just to happen a little bit faster. Maybe it's more mental than anything, but it is what it is. What else did I want to talk about from the event? Oh, right. A lot of people, because the event was free, a lot of people were drawn to that, and that's cool. I get it, especially if you're new to land and you don't really know if this is the thing that you want to do. But I found that a lot of people with the same mentality of trying to save money, like from the mailers and everything else, they try to save money on things that you can't really save money on. So that's kind of like, I'm about to go boating or fishing out in a river or a lake, but I don't want to buy a good life vest. I'm about to go car racing and I don't want to buy a good helmet. I'm about to go, play basketball, but I don't want to get a good pair of basketball shoes to protect my feet and ankles, right? Yes, I get it. Finances could be a thing. I totally understand that. But there's certain things you just can't skip out on. If you do, you're just hurting yourself. Now, I obviously think good, proper instruction and mentorship is the way. But like trying to go through quote unquote YouTube University and all that, that's good for a good starting point. That's good when you actually have mentorship and you have a quick question that is easier just looked up on YouTube. And there's other little places where YouTube and the quote unquote free sources or very cheap sources can really fill in the gaps. But if you don't have a cohesive and comprehensive program that you're following step by step with somebody that can kind of guide you through it, because it's not always, you may not always be sure if you're actually doing things the way that is explained. You think you are, but you're not really sure. It's going to be tough. Not that you can't do it. Of course, people do it all the time. But how much money and time will you waste trying to reinvent the wheel, trying to solve a problem that's been solved? And if you just paid a little bit to somebody who can just give you the answer and help you make sure you do it, you probably spend less doing that than you would making a trial and error mistakes, trying to do things on your own, right? It's like the way people, like when you buy a cheap tool from Harbor Freight or whatever, and you're like, yeah, well, I can save some money now, but then you ended up having to buy the more expensive tool later because the cheap tool broke in the middle of the job. So in the long run, you end up buying what you should have bought in the first place, and you wasted money on the cheap tool. That's kind of what a lot of people are going through now. That's what I kind of learned from that free event. Now, a free event like mine is fine because it kind of takes you, gives you that guidance that you need. Not as much as you would be if you actually worked with me as one of my students, but you get a good amount. And it takes you through the first couple of steps. But then the next few steps, because I just don't, we got to wait until people respond, wait for the negotiation process. I can't do that in a free event. Right? So I'm not saying you got to work with me, but I'm just saying you got to find somebody that knows the game, that has willing to sit down with you when you need your questions answered to help you out. Trying to go cheap here or going cheap on the tools or going cheap on anything else, you're just going to end up spending more money, right? You can go cheap on the offers. You can go cheap on how much you're going to pay for property tax and all that, but you can't go cheap on the things that matter. All right. Now, I mentioned earlier, there was a video I made about something that kind of related to all this because it does. And it kind of goes with what I was just talking about. Now, let me wrap up about the event. The event was a success. A lot of people learned a lot. If you didn't see it, there's no replays for you. Sorry. This didn't do it. And like even if I did, the replays would be hours long. No one's going to watch all that. It's a waste of bandwidth. I'm not going to do it. I will do another one at some point, but it does take a lot of time and energy from me to do that, to set it up, to run it, answer the questions. It takes a lot. So that's why I don't do them that often. But when I do, everybody gets a lot of value out of it because they get a little taste of what it's like to work with me. Now, with that said, whether you went to the event or not, there's people looking to get my help, and I'm glad to offer it. Some people just have a question that they need to fire off, and the quick question I can answer back, boom, I'll do it. But others are looking for mentorship. Now, anytime I say, hey, if you're going to come to me, be ready to go. Do not have this conversation about mentorship for some future idea, because what I have available now may not be what I have available later. The price that you're going to pay me to save you a lot of time, headaches, and maybe legal trouble may not be the same as when you come back 3 or 6 months from now. In fact, it's changed on many people. So I'm saying, don't talk to me unless you are ready to go right now. And before you're ready to go, if you have a spouse or a business partner or somebody else you need to communicate with, you need to talk to them before we have our conversation. So after our conversation, we both feel, hey, we should do this. I'm looking forward to working with you. I can't wait to get started. I'm like, great, we'll get started right now. If you're not in that position, it's not time to have that conversation. Now, with that said, I hear a lot of people and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm ready to go, this and that. And then as we're having the conversation, I'm like, okay, are they a good fit? Are they going to be a waste of my time? Or are they going to bring down the quality of the group? People telling themselves a little bit, and it's fine. Now, is there any judgment? No. It's just the same way that not everybody's meant to do everything. We're not all meant to play basketball at a high level. We're not all meant to be, PhDs. We're not all meant to, you fill in the blank, right? We all have our lanes that we're going to be good at, some things that we're not so good at. Or even if we are going to be at a high level of something, there's levels. So, sure, we might get to level 10 at some point, but right now we're still at the beginner's level. Totally fine. There's no judgment. We all go through that. But it's when people are in denial of where they are or what it will take to get someone to a certain point. Case in point, talk to somebody pre-event. I'm like, same thing I said. I said, hey, make sure you're ready to have this call. We should be making a decision if we're going to do it, yes or no. Talk to people you need to talk to. Make sure everything is ready to go. It's just now it's whether or not you want to do it or not. After you find out a little bit more about the details of the program or just land investing in general. Because some people may hear about land investing, they think it's great, hear about the details, like, it's not so good. I'd rather do another form of real estate. Cool. Anyways, in these conversations, people, as I said, they're telling themselves, and when I call them out on it, not everybody takes it well. Some people get very emotional about it and they have this little outburst. Now, I don't get emotional about it because, I'm just like calling what I see. Whether this person, if I help this person or not, doesn't really affect me like that. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I think about not coaching so I can focus more on the business that I have or my land investing business, but other times the fulfillment I get from helping others, it's kind of hard to walk away from that. It does feel really good to know, like, damn, I really helped them learn these high level skills and now they're actually making money for their families, teaching them the game and all that. So it's hard to walk away from that. But as I said, some people just aren't ready for it. And so when they make excuses and I call it out, I don't be like pointing my finger like, I'm like, hey, so you said this. Is that no longer true? Or now you're mentioning something when I ask a question about it. Like, you didn't mention that before. When I asked you, hey, is there anything else stopping you from doing this? You never mentioned these other things you're telling me about all of a sudden. Interesting. Oh, now you got to think about this decision, even though I said you should already have thought about it before joining. And I told you it's not going to be cheap. Interesting. Now, a lot of people, because they think circumstances aren't where they want it to be, or their money ain't where it wanted to be, or things a little bit more expensive than they thought, they put off the decision to do something that they claim that they really want to do. Now, if they really don't want to do it and the money chases them off, great. Now we both know something else. You should be doing something else. But if it's something you really want to do and you're worried about the money, well, first off, that's more reason why to do it, because you ain't got the money. That means something's going wrong in your life. Second, a lot of times it's fear talking, preventing you from moving forward. And sometimes the same fear shows up after, let's say, we are working together and there's a deal on the table and maybe it's a little bit more expensive than you thought, but it can be a lot more, it can be a lucrative deal, but you're afraid to go in, right? In both of these cases, you are saying my comfort and my comfort zone is more important to me than my goals and more important than my family's safety. Now, what do I mean by family safety? Am I being a little hyperbolic? No, I'm not. Now, earlier today, as I was kind of mentioning, somebody got emotional and I'm like, hey, you said you needed some time. I gave you time. You gave me one excuse. Now you give me another excuse. If you don't want to work with me, it's all good. And he got emotional, or at least I think he did. I can't tell. It's text. So he excused himself. I'm like, great. I don't got to waste my time with that anymore. I can focus on people who are ready to go. Not long after that, I got a text from one of my actual students. and he's actually been going through a lot. He had family members in hospitals, like, serious stuff, like where his mind could only think about the safety and the health of certain family members. And these aren't like extended cousins. These are immediate family members. And he's like, yeah, man, like, I don't know what his situation is, but I know a lot of the money he had saved up to invest in land went to hospital bills and helping out his family. So he's in a bind now that he needs to continue to learn these skills at a faster level than what he was doing before when he was really busy. All right. Anyway, so after talking to him and understanding the situation, he's going to have to do this at a faster pace than what he was learning already. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, life is short, people, and I'm not just talking about the life of your own life and how you're going to do things, like, because if you're dead, not really worried about anything else because you're dead. But what about your friends, your families, your loved ones that's requiring some kind of assistance from you? They're relying on you to help them. They may not realize they're relying on you now, but they're relying on you to help them at some point in the future, and you want to be there for them. But because you kept putting off this decision, or you kept letting these excuses build up, and you stopped you from taking action, now when they need you, it's too late for you to go. Like, think about that. If you had the time to get prepared now, but you waited to the last minute, well, how prepared will you be? It happens to so many of us, right? And it's like people think, well, my job is fine. My job is this. Okay, yeah, your job might be fine, but what about a bad hospital visit? Maybe you get sued, God forbid. Maybe you lose your car from some reckless driver, right? And you don't get injured. Let's just say the car gets destroyed and you weren't even in it, right? Some guy just hits your parked car, right? What are you going to do? Insurance maybe will pay a little bit, but maybe it doesn't pay off enough to get you the car you need. So my point is this. Do not wait to get started. It only got to be with me. You can get started with anybody. You can do it on your own, right? Go through the trial and error. Even though I don't recommend trial and error, at least that's better than sitting there and saying, oh yeah, tomorrow or later or when I get this. No, the situation will never be perfect. The timing will never be perfect. There will always be something else to prevent you from taking action, but only if you let it prevent you from taking action, right? It's never going to be a perfect time. So the longer you wait and the more excuses you make, the more you're putting your own comfort and your own comfort zone ahead of your friends and your family, their safety, and the goals that you have set out. Because you're not just doing land for the hell of it. There's a reason why you want to, invest in land. And the longer you put it off, the more difficult you're making things for yourself, the more risky you are taking by not learning these skills ASAP, because it's going to take time. You're not going to just absorb the skills instantaneously, or even if you do, the deals aren't going to just come instantaneously. You got to start building them. You got to start putting those contacts out there. You got to start talking to people. Until you do that, you're just asking for trouble, in my opinion. And I don't think it was a coincidence why I had that emotional outburst via text versus someone telling me, hey, man, I really got to kick this in high. I've already been started, but I got to go even faster than what I've been going. I don't think there was a coincidence. I think this is why I need to tell you guys this message to go along with some of the takeaways I have from that online event. But with that said, it's been a while, so I thought I'd make this video for you guys. Hopefully you guys are well. If you have any questions about land, hit me up. You see the links I have available. I have a different trainings that are free that you can get part of. My email list is always fantastic because I'm always talking about what I'm doing in there or different things to help. And yeah, you also got this group. So other than that, it's Coach Vic. Hopefully you guys are doing well. I'll talk to you guys, man. Peace.